On the morning of July 20th, the heart of New Delhi broke down into chaos. What began as a student demonstration quickly turned into a series of violent clashes, with shouting protesters colliding with heavily armed police. To understand the escalation, we have to rewind to June 28th. That is when activist Sonam Wangchuk joined an ongoing demonstration at Jantar Mantar and began a hunger strike. The people sitting alongside him were there to protest the widespread leak of the NEET medical exams, a compromised system that threatened the futures of over 2 million students across the country. By starting a hunger strike, Wangchuk created a difficult dilemma for the state. Forcibly removing a peaceful 60-year-old activist risks a public image of tyranny, but leaving him to starve creates a massive, uncontrollable wave of public sympathy. The pressure was mounting on Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. However, the government maintained a firm stance that resignations were not an option, leaving the situation in a stalemate. Instead of negotiating with the students, the state initiated a covert multi-step operation to legally dismantle the protest from the inside. The first move took place in a courtroom. On July 15th, a private advocate filed a petition in the Delhi High Court. The filing claimed Wangchuk's health was in critical danger and requested medical intervention. The court agreed to the monitoring, though the order did not explicitly authorize his removal. Opposition leaders like Sanjay Singh immediately challenged this. They alleged the petition was a coordinated setup to provide the state with a legal pretext for an arrest. 2 days later, the government replaced the Delhi Police Commissioner. They brought in Anurag Kumar, a veteran director from the Intelligence Bureau who had spent his career managing secret operations. Hours after his appointment, Kumar summoned New Delhi's special commissioners to a midnight meeting. He used the session to finalize a military-style extraction plan designed to pull Wangchuk from his tent in a matter of seconds. By manufacturing a legal pretext and installing a covert operations expert, the state bypassed standard policing protocols to prepare for a crackdown. On the morning of July 18th, the police moved in. They used a layered security drill where officers in civilian clothes held up large white sheets to block the view of cameras, while they physically carried Wangchuk to a waiting ambulance. To justify the physical removal, the state pointed to Wangchuk's vital signs, claiming he was suffering from a life-threatening medical emergency. This chart shows the reading the police used as their evidence. According to the state, Wangchuk's potassium levels, critical for heart function, plummets from a healthy 4.3 down to a dangerous 2.9 overnight. But when independent lab results are added to the timeline just 1 day later, his levels appear back at a normal 3.5. This immediate recovery, without major treatment, makes the police's critical reading of 2.9 highly suspect. The data suggests the state relied on questionable medical readings to legitimize a political abduction under the false guise of a health emergency. Wangchuk was moved to the 8th floor of Safdarjung Hospital, but he managed to smuggle a note out to his supporters. He declared his detention illegal and urged them to march on Parliament. The message spread instantly through university WhatsApp groups and mobilized the families of millions of students affected by the exam leaks. To stop the march, the state deployed signal jammers across the protest zones, cutting off all internet and cellular service to prevent coordination. This diagram shows how the youth bypassed the jammers. By using apps like Briar and BetChat, they created a decentralized Bluetooth mesh network. Instead of cell towers, their phones connected directly to each other, making the network stronger as the crowd grew denser. The attempt to isolate the movement only forced it to decentralize, making the crowd even more difficult for the state to control. On the morning of July 20th, a massive, leaderless crowd began converging on the streets near the Parliament building. In the middle of this high-security zone, a truck filled with stones was found parked at the protest site. Records later revealed this truck had been seized by police 4 days earlier, leading to allegations that it was placed there to frame protesters for violence. The police response was aggressive containment. They began kettling thousands of protesters at Jantar Mantar, trapping them in a confined space. Metro exits were blocked, and all but one gate at the protest site were sealed. This created a literal pressure cooker environment, where the crowd could grow but had no way to leave. The chaos that followed was the inevitable result of these containment strategies, which were designed to push the crowd to the breaking point. Once the crowds broke the barricades, the police used force against shouting and seated protesters, causing injuries that included fractured limbs and head wounds. This was paired with a high-tech crackdown. Police deployed AI-powered facial recognition networks to scan the crowd, identifying individual faces and cataloging the dissenting youth. The scale of this response stood in stark contrast to the protesters' actual demands, a simple plea for fairness and an end to paper leaks. India already manages leak-proof national exams like the UPSC, proving the state has the technical ability to protect its students. However, the recurring leaks in the NEET continue to favor those with the connections to purchase high scores. Reforming this system is purely a matter of government intent. The youth who came to ask for a fair future were met by a state willing to use fabricated medical readings and physical violence. They will not forget what happened at the government's doorstep.